For nearly 3 years, India and Canada were barely on speaking terms. Ambassadors were recalled. A relationship built over decades was fractured. But things are changing. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting India this week, and his visit comes at a critical juncture. Canada is locked in a trade battle with its neighbour, the United States. Trump's tariffs are squeezing the Canadian economy, so Ottawa is looking east. So does Carney's visit mark a genuine turning point? Here are 3 reasons why it matters.
The last time a Canadian Prime Minister visited India, it did not go well. That was Justin Trudeau in 2023 at the G20 summit in New Delhi. Within weeks of that visit, Trudeau stood in Parliament and made an explosive claim. He accused India of killing a Khalistani separatist in Canada. His name was Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India called the allegation absurd. Ambassadors were expelled. The relationship went into free-fall. That freeze lasted nearly 2 years. Then Trudeau resigned.
I, Mark Carney, do swear that
Mark Carney took over as Prime Minister, and things began to shift. The High Commissioners returned in August 2025. In November, on the sidelines of a G20 in Johannesburg, Carney and Modi met. They agreed to formally restart trade negotiations.
As the Prime Minister departed from Mumbai, his trip was already triggering controversy after a senior government official told reporters that Ottawa believes the Indian government is no longer involved in violence and intimidation against Canada's Sikh community, and that if it was, the trip wouldn't be happening. Criticism is now coming even from within the Liberal Party.
And I personally feel that this is very disconnected from the truth and the realities that members are facing on the ground.
Members of the Sikh community say the intimidation is ongoing.
Just recently, this Sunday, one of the activists got a duty to warn, and it has gone so low that it's not only him got the duty to warn; it is his wife and children at risk.
The Prime Minister has come to India looking to rewrite the relationship with a big emphasis on investment and trade. Saskatchewan's Premier has traveled with him, hopeful Canada is making up for lost time with India.
And I would say from a trade perspective that we've fallen behind a number of other countries around the world.
This is a big reset.
India is keen too. The High Commissioner says his country wants a lot of what Canada is selling, particularly energy, from nuclear to oil and gas.
Energy, there is appetite to which even Canada cannot fulfill. And we're willing to buy whatever Canada is offering on crude, on LPG, on LNG.
A far cry from recent years, from Justin Trudeau's awkward visit to 2023 allegations Indian agents were involved in the murder of a Sikh activist in BC. But Carney has made it clear he wants to defrost the relationship and jumpstart trade talks.
India is the most populous country in the world. It is the 4th largest economy. It is the fastest growing economy, and it's an important geopolitical actor. For us to be able to diversify non-US exports, India has to be a critical part of that puzzle.
Saskatchewan's Premier says he's hopeful a new pipeline to Canada's west coast could be part of the answer.
I would suggest that we as Canadians have a responsibility to provide and displace some of the dirtier forms of energy, some of the more unethical forms of energy.
But questions hang over the two countries' security relationship after one federal official told journalists the violence and repression fueled by the Indian government has stopped. Activists from Canada's Sikh community insist the intimidation continues.
India's High Commissioner didn't mince words when he said they are willing to buy basically whatever Canada is offering. Whether it's crude oil, LNG, or uranium, India wants the whole lot, and Mark Carney is on the ground in India right now to make it happen. There is a $3 billion uranium deal sitting on the table, and both countries have already set a massive target to double their trade from $31 billion to $70 billion by the year 2030. This isn't just standard diplomacy, folks, because what we are seeing is Canada and India building a $70 billion shield against Donald Trump's tariffs. India, is currently growing at a rate of 7.8%, and they desperately need the oil, gas, and technology that Canada has in spades. The world's most populous nation essentially walked up to the door and told Canada to name its price. The reset from frozen relations to strategic alliance. For nearly 3 years, the relationship between Canada and India was completely broken and felt like it might never recover. Everything fractured after Justin Trudeau accused Indian agents of being involved in the 2023 killing of a Canadian Sikh separatist, which led to India denying the claims and trust evaporating instantly. Ambassadors were pulled out, trade talks hit a total dead end, and for a long time the relationship looked dead in the water. But you have to watch how Mark Carney handled this differently, because he didn't apologize or back down. Instead, he invited Prime Minister Modi to the G7 summit in Alberta as a calculated move, offering a handshake between equals that proved they could disagree about the past while still building a future together. This reset is a big deal because it shows India that Canada won't just fold under pressure from the United States. Canada needed India to see that Carney could walk right past those diplomatic landmines without getting blown up, especially since India just watched Trump try to weaponize energy dependence. Washington tried to force India to stop buying Russian oil and switch to American crude. But High Commissioner Desh Patnaik was very direct when he said they want to diversify their supply. That is New Delhi saying they will never let one single country control their energy future again. It's the exact same realization Mark Carney had when he saw that 93% of Canadian oil goes to the US and decided that lopsided deal had to end. Now you have two countries with the same problem and the same urgency, and they are finally moving in the same direction. The $70 billion threat, what Canada and India actually want. India is currently the 4th largest buyer of LNG on the planet, but their plans for the future are much bigger than that. They want to more than double the amount of gas in their energy mix, jumping from 6% today to 15% by 2030, which is a massive structural shift to pull off in less than 5 years. On the other side of the ocean, Canada has 7 different LNG export projects in the works right now. Mark Carney has already sent 2 of those to the Major Projects Office to get their approvals fast-tracked, meaning every single one of these projects just found the most motivated customer they could ask for. Then, you have to look at uranium and nuclear technology. India is running 25 nuclear reactors right now with another 8 under construction, but the real story is in the long-term numbers. They are aiming for a 10-fold increase in nuclear capacity, trying to go from about 8.7 gigawatts today all the way to 100 gigawatts by 2047. That isn't just a policy change, it's a civilizational transformation, and Canada happens to be the world's 2nd largest producer of uranium with massive deposits sitting in Saskatchewan. These deposits are so high grade that India's High Commissioner didn't just say he was interested, he literally said they are willing to take whatever Canada can provide. Indian companies are even talking about buying ownership stakes in Canadian mines because they want the expertise and the reactor technology that comes with it. This isn't just a simple sale of a commodity, it's a massive technology alliance between 2 countries that both believe nuclear power is the backbone of clean energy. Right now, there is a 10-year uranium supply deal worth about $3 billion sitting on the table for active consideration. We also have to talk about crude oil. India is one of the biggest oil importers in the world, but they currently have to get Canadian crude through a really strange detour. It has to go south through American pipelines to the US Gulf Coast, and then it travels halfway around the world just to reach Indian ports. High Commissioner Patnaik was pretty blunt about this when he pointed out that Canada is an energy superpower that only supplies one country. That whole dynamic changes if a Pacific pipeline gets built, and Carney has already put his support behind a new oil pipeline to the coast of British Columbia. Building a Pacific export terminal would cut down shipping times and cost while removing the American middleman from the equation entirely. This three-part energy strategy turns Canada from a dependent neighbor into a long-term partner with one of the fastest-growing economies on the planet. The geopolitical calculation. Why this threatens Trump. This trip is a genuine threat to Donald Trump's entire way of doing business because his whole system relies on one thing, and that's dependence. He needs other countries to be dependent on U.S. markets so that his tariffs actually have some teeth. If Canada is stuck relying only on the United States, then those tariffs hurt enough to force concessions and make people negotiate. But if Canada has other options and starts looking elsewhere, those tariffs lose their power and just become background noise. This visit to India isn't about being polite to a new friend. It's about Canada building what we call optionality. That is the word that really matters here, because having options reduces your vulnerability. And vulnerability is the only thing trade pressure can actually exploit. You have to think about the geopolitical context of what just happened. India watched the Trump administration pressure them into stopping their purchases of Russian oil so they would buy American crude instead. They saw Washington turn energy dependence into a weapon in real time, and New Delhi decided right then that they would never let one single country control their energy future again. Does that sound familiar to you? It's the exact same conclusion Mark Carney reached when he saw that 93% of Canadian crude was going to the United States and decided that had to end. You have two different countries that had the same realization at the same time, and now they are moving with the same sense of urgency. Senator Peter Boehm, who is a former top diplomat and the current chair of the Senate's Foreign Affairs Committee, put it very clearly. He noted that about 98% of Canadian energy goes to the United States, and since that relationship is uncertain right now, branching out is the only way to go. That isn't just polite diplomatic talk, it is a survival strategy, and we are seeing pure survivalism in action. The calculation here is pretty simple. If India becomes a long-term buyer of Canadian uranium and gas, Canada becomes a permanent part of one of the most explosive energy markets in the world. This isn't just a small bump in trade for one quarter. It's a generational shift where Canada builds ties with an economy growing at nearly 8%, while the West is mostly standing still. This creates a level of independence that Washington can't just take away with a few angry tweets or threats of a trade war. This sends a huge signal to every other global leader who is watching this play out. Canada is showing the world that it won't be bullied or negotiate out of a sense of fear. When one country proves it can handle the pressure and keep growing anyway, other nations start to take notes. They are watching how Carney is handling the volatility coming from Trump without any big drama or giving in to demands. People are starting to see a pattern where Canada is the stable and strategic player in the room. That reputation is being built under real pressure, and it's completely changing how the rest of the world views Canada's future. The warm welcome India is giving isn't just about being nice, it's a massive geopolitical acknowledgement that Canada is moving up on the world stage. They are moving from being a country that relies on one customer to one that is resilient because it has multiple partners. That idea of moving from reliance to resilience used to be just a slogan, but now it's becoming a reality that you can actually see. You have a $3 billion uranium deal, a major economic partnership, and a pipeline plan that cuts out the Americans. The entire leverage equation for Canada is shifting right in front of us. And that is what has people so worried. Conclusion. Canada is finally moving past the days of selling everything to just one country And we're expecting the full details on this new economic partnership to drop in the next few weeks. Hit subscribe so you don't miss our coverage the second these deals are signed, and tell me what you think in the comments. Should Canada be building stronger ties with India after everything that's happened?